Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for this latest episode of Big Boobs Big Archive. My name's Carl Bainbridge, and joining me as ever, my co-host, Mr. Carl Dutton.
Evening, day,
Mr. Paul Barron.
afternoon, wherever you're listening to this.
Mr. Paul Barron.
Hello, I was lost in the desert, but now I have been found.
And Mr. Mitchell Taylor.
Yes, I was sitting here thinking, I wonder if he's going to get that or not.
Yes, congratulations, Mitchell, on the new name. I'd say,
Thank
well done
you.
for doing so. I hope it's not going to go into a sort of a Prince situation where you change your name and you just start going off the rails, though.
It might happen. We'll see.
Well, we'll have the
see.
best chance to see because, of course, this is Big Boobs Big Archive, and this is our 2015 Christmas special. Yes, we made it through another 12 months of reality television where, we have to be frank, we've seen some, quite frankly, bizarre sights in our time, have we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have not studied in fine art.
Well, yes, 2015 in reality TV has been a particularly eclectic and eccentric year, and on this show we'll be reviewing the best and worst over the past 12 months. Now, we've split ourselves into 10 different categories, with all four of us making nominations, so 40 things to discuss in all, and certainly I'm really looking forward to it, because of all the shows that we have going, you have to say, from a personal perspective, the reality TV awards is always my favourite episode of the year.
Considering he's been trying to get us to do our nominations from about May.
I've been looking
In May it
forward to
was,
that
oh,
much.
think about your nominations. Think about your nominations. In September, have you finished your nominations yet? So, yeah, I think he has been looking forward to it.
And we only just got them finalised on the Friday, so
Yes, because we actually like to watch every single reality show to try and get a...
Well, so that's where I'm at disadvantage. I watched the shows that we cover, and then I watched a couple of others. Haven't really been dabbling in the international ones this year. There is less of them now, but I haven't seen any of the USA one, haven't seen any of the Canada one. I don't know, I just wasn't interested this year, I don't think.
because I think we lost Australia as well this year, didn't we?
Yeah.
Our
Which I
poor
think-
Australian cousins.
Yes. So unfortunately, they'll have to put up with more of Simon's showbiz gross.
Yes.
Yeah. So feel sorry for Australia.
Shouters! At least we're not playing his Christmas song. We
Not
could've got-
yet, no.
He's
That-
got a
He's got
Christmas
a
song?
Christmas song.
He's got a Christmas song.
Oh.
Look it up. It will be the most cringe-worthy 3 minutes of your entire life.
No offense, but he looks like a demented version of a bloody Cadbury's cream egg advert.
No, I prefer it. Wait, before you said the word advert, I just like the idea of he's a demented Cadbury's cream egg.
That's even better.
But yes, as you can imagine, this is going to be a very entertaining show, and a little bit of a spoiler work, we will be talking a bit more about Simon later on in the show. But our first category that we're going to be looking at is the Surprise Package of the Year award. Now, this goes to a reality TV contestant or television show that turned out to be far better than anyone else anticipated. And for our first category, Paul had the first choice for this one,
Scoop. Fat Man Scoop.
from Celebrity Big Brother 16.
Yeah. And to be honest, the reason why he's on here, not because of the fact that he was entertaining, mind you, that cold shower moment was actually pretty funny, but the fact that out of nowhere, I thought he was dead, or worse, just roaming around the dirty club scenes.
The Surprise Package of the Year award, the nominee is Fat Man Scoop for not being dead.
This is coming from someone who thought that Chevy Chase was dead for about 25 years. So
I do think, though, you have made a really good choice there with Scoop, because I do think there were better choices for the Surprise Package of the Year, I have to admit. But I think at the same time, though, I think a lot of people, when they heard about Fat Man Scoop being in there, I think a lot of people just expected him to be just a sort of middle-of-the-road, underwhelming character. But you have to remember, for the early stages of the show, Scoop was probably one of the big fan favourites of Celebrity 16.
Where I stand with Fat Man Scoop, he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
So good on him for being a nice guy. Good on him for doing that. I thought at a bit he was becoming a bit too much at one point, and I did feel that he deserved to go in his eviction because he provided the least out of the four nominees. However, I do think he was a fantastic guy, and I can't fault him for that.
Certainly so. Do you know what Scoop really reminded me of? It was a proper old school Channel 4 celebrity casting.
Yes. Yes.
like a very similar along those same sort of lines as say Cisco from Celebrity 7, just sort of.
Coolio.
Coolio's another one, yeah. Like they had the big 90s pop song, there was a little bit of nostalgia there, and when you heard the name Fat Man Scoop, you just thought, oh yeah, I remember him. He had that annoying song in 2003.
It wasn't annoying, it was good for the time.
Yeah, but this was 2003, Paul. There were a lot of bad things in 2003.
I mean, I was at launch night, and the atmosphere when he came out of the eye, and when they were playing his song and he came out of the eye jumping up and down or whatever, the atmosphere was just electric. It was like people were living in that crowd.
To be honest, I would. I think he's a good choice, but I think it's the opposite for him. I think we expected more than we got.
Yeah.
He'd peek his head up and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, he's still there."
Like some sort of DJ meerkat.
Yes, exactly like that. Yes.
I tell you what, Paul, you can tell you do an art degree because you just come up with some surreal imagery in your head sometimes.
Art degree, spent most of his life on the internet. Either way, I'm broken.
You haven't gone anywhere near my brain though, so.
Well, we are going to dissect your brain a little bit, Mitch, because you have choice number 2. Who's your surprise package of the year?
My surprise package of the year is Brian Bellow for being alive. For me, I liked him in his series. I must admit, I was supporting him in his series, but I thought when he was going back in, he'd just sort of be a bit too much now that he knows the reality scene. But I thought that he provided a decent experience, and I thought it was so sad him having to leave in the way he did. And I thought, I was really impressed by him, and I've got much more of a positive opinion of him coming out of that house than I did him going in.
To be honest, Mitch, I can't agree more with this choice. I think it's a fantastic nomination because...
That's because it was yours.
Yeah, well, I have to be honest, he was the choice that I wanted to make, but obviously you had first dibs in this category. But the thing with Brian Bellow was, when I saw him in Big Brother 8, I was never a big Brian Bellow fan at all. I felt that he's all, I don't know who Shakespeare is, I'm a lovable idiot, or everyone appreciate me for that. I found that very stale and very tiresome. And when I heard he was going back into the house, or the time warp twist, I just thought we're going to be getting the same thing. We're going to have him just playing up to the cameras even more, trying to do this act, which might have been endearing when he was like 19, 18, whenever he was in Big Brother 8. But as a man in his mid-20s now, it's just going to be so corny. And yet, he showed so much more of an edge to himself in there.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of factors inside the house played a part in that. But I think just the fact that Brian Bellow in general was showing this darker, more complex side to him was just something I really appreciated. And like you, I started to feel really sorry for him by the time his spell there came to an end.
I must admit, he is a very smart man.
He is. He's very...
I don't give him as much credit as... I don't think the public give him as much credit as he deserves. This whole Towie argument with him, being the original creator pretty much of Towie and then being totally ripped off. When that all came around, I realised, he knows reality TV almost. He is a smart man, and I thought that this gave him a whole new dimension, and I'm really glad he went back in almost.
Because even if you looked at a lot of the polls, they always do the winner polls at the end of every series. Brian used to rank as like the worst winner on a lot of people's opinions.
Yeah.
And yet after this season, people have looked back retrospectively at Big Brother 8 and realised, he wasn't as bad as what we all thought he was.
I think when he was on originally, he was the lovable idiot kind of thing, I guess. That was his whole shtick. But then when he came back on this time, again, we said this on the actual show, it could have been down to the editing, but he just came off like he flew off the handle for no reason a lot of the time. In the highlights that we got, he didn't seem like his going as far as he did was justified. Now, granted, what was said back to him was even worse, but I think he was the one that escalated the situation, and nothing that we saw on the main show justified how escalated he got to be.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I do share the sentiment that Brian arguably created arguments with Helen to try and be seen as the good guy in the eyes of the audience. But as I mentioned before, even Brian Bellow showing that side to his character was something refreshingly different. It was refreshing to see Brian actually creating confrontation and standing up for himself instead of being this whipping boy that he was in Super 8. When I remember with the Charlie argument where she just basically walked all over him.
I mean, you look at the whole Towie Geordie Shore scene and realise how big it actually is and how many millions it's making. The fact that he came up with that whole thing and then was totally ripped off about it but still managed to fight it off. I mean, he came up with the original cast as well for Towie. Like, as much as we've got him to blame, that's a smarter thing than I would have credited Brian Bellow for.
Because, I mean, say what you want about The Only Way is Essex as a TV show, it's made absolutely bucket loads of money. And the fact that Brian Bellow, the guy who didn't know who Shakespeare was, did that, I think is very telling. I think it's a fantastic nomination choice. Next up, we move to Carl for his nomination. Who have you chosen, Carl?
I chose Janice Dickinson just because I didn't know who the hell she was.
Honestly?
Hold on.
Yeah.
What? You are doing a podcast about reality TV and you had no clue who Janice Dickinson was?
No, I don't watch other shows.
Trashy.
I don't watch other shows, honestly. So yeah, I didn't know who she was, and then she came on, and I was like, oh, okay, this crazy old woman, but I had no idea.
You need to see her series of I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah, I don't watch that. I don't watch anything except this show, pretty much.
As I said, her in the Jungle was one of the best things ever.
No offense.
I mean, Janice Dickinson, she even calls it herself. She is the self-proclaimed queen of reality television. And if you look at all the shows that she's done over in America and over in Britain, Janice has been one of those people who people have been clamoring for to do this show for years now. So, to be honest, I think you can't really say that Janice on Celebrity 16 was a surprise, because she was just as great as what she has been in all of her other reality shows.
Yeah, I always say I just was a surprise because I was not expecting that character out of her, and then from what I heard about how she was on the other ones, I wasn't expecting the way that she did. It was all very smartly played and very calculated, and that just
either
wasn't...
way as well. She came off a lot more human in this series than she did in her.
Well, yeah, because she was practically hounded, and you know.
I think a lot of people maybe expected Janice to be like front and center of the show. Everything was going to be about how amazing Janice was. To be honest, I think the fact that she was a bit more of a bit part player, and that the likes of Jenna and Farrah started to take the limelight off her, I think it helped Janice. I think people maybe could have got a bit sick of her if she'd been front and center every day. Yeah. So her in more of a supporting role. Maybe, to be honest, the surprise was that Janice was like a B-list player rather than full-on A-list stars around the name.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry, she should have been in the final.
Oh, she was amazing. She should have been, absolutely.
She should have won.
Yes.
Yes, this nomination is more down to the fact of my kind of bubble of I don't really... When majority of these celebrity shows are on, I don't know the majority of the people, because, as I say, I don't watch other reality shows. So it's like, oh, okay, you seem interesting. To me, there's no difference between the celebrity and the normal one. Because other than a couple of people, I'm like, oh, I kind of recognise you.
Well, when you cast some people like Farrah Abraham, you are stretching the realm of celebrity.
Well, but it's always been the case for me with that. I just, again, I'm not really into that whole, Z-list celebrity culture, really. That's just not one of the things I follow.
Now, I've gone a little bit left field with my nomination, and I've actually chosen a bit of a reality TV veteran themselves. I've nominated Chloe Jasmine for her appearance on Celebrity Big Brother 16. Now, I'd watched the previous year's series of The X Factor, and my opinion of Chloe up until that time was she was a decent enough singer. Yeah, the fact we had this amazingly posh girl on a trashy reality show like that was a bit quirky in itself. But when I heard that her and Stevie Ritchie were going to be on Celebrity Big Brother, I just thought, she's just going to be this bit part player. It's just a stunt casting to try and get an X Factor audience in there. If any of them are going to be interesting, it's going to be Stevie. And the fact that Chloe herself turned into this great, over-the-top reality TV character, the sort that you usually get on a civilian version of the show, I just think was amazing, and it upset me that so many people weren't willing to appreciate that about her. I mean, she was funny, she was quirky. The fact that her and Stevie always get into these contrived arguments with one another, and her like deluded crying, it was just something really amazing. And I think I just found it a real shame that because they were booked together as a showmans, people fixated on that rather than her as a character, because I thought she was amazing.
I mean, I haven't seen. I stopped watching X Factor in 2013, so I didn't see a series of X Factor. But I'd seen her on a few other things, and it was like, yeah, she'll be sort of background.
It's because
But for me, she really started shining in that environment, and I really like Chloe now. For me, she was like an Alicia,
Yes,
just a bit more.
and I've always loved that sort of type of character, because Alicia was very close to actually getting one of my nominations for that as well, because I just love that sort of endearing, slightly naive underdog.
Well, the only way I could describe her is imagine like a Marilyn Monroe film, that kind of acting, but if it was somebody being genuine. That's the only way I could describe it. Is it's over the top, but she means it. Like it's sort of, oh, well, I'm so sorry, hand on the head, oh, I'm going to faint. Oh. But that's generally how she expresses herself as a real person. But it's bizarre.
oh, there's a lot of people who are suffering, and you're basically worried about what kind of water you've got.
But to me, that's always a great reality TV character, though. It's that sort of person that is over the top, shouldn't exist in real life, but yet they're here for our entertainment on this trashy reality TV show.
We're supposed to be having a nice tea party.
She was one of those great reality TV characters where she was over the top, but at the same time she wasn't irritating with it in the way that maybe some other reality TV contestants can be.
No, she was more fascinating than anything.
And fascinating as well, definitely. So we've all listed our nominees then, lads. Here's the unscripted part of the show. Here's where we decide what's our nomination, what's our winner.
I'm going to back yours for Chloe Jasmine just because mine is down to ignorance. I think Brian, I think he was different, but not necessarily a surprise. And I think the Scoop under-delivered.
Scoop, good nomination. I don't think it's the winner for me. Janice, again, I don't really think was much of a surprise. So I'm going to go with you, Carl, and go for Chloe Jasmine.
Well, my nomination, obviously I can't choose my own for this part. I would probably say Brian Bello, mainly because the fact that we had this darker, edgier Brian Bello, and someone that did so much to try and escape the lovable idiot tag that he earned himself after Big Brother 8. That was what would take my nomination. Which leaves Paul to make the deciding vote. You're the Len Goodman in this situation, Paul.
Oh God, I don't want to be the Len Goodman.
Don't mention Len Goodman on this show.
Oh God. Let me think. Fuck it. I'm going with Chloe.
Well, there you are, ladies and gentlemen. Our winner of the surprise package of the year. It is Celebrity Big Brother 16's Chloe Jasmine.
Take your cat ears and leave.
So yes, Chloe Jasmine is our winner there of the surprise package of the year. So that's 1 point for me in our end of show tally. For our next one, we go to a brand new category for this year, which is the worst production decision of the year. Now this stems from a conversation we had during last year's awards show, where essentially everybody within the group wanted to nominate some sort of production-related decision as their dumbass of the year. Unfortunately, though, we had to restrict that to contestants within the show, so we couldn't allow it. But we kept that in mind, and we decided, because really, the producers of these shows need as much criticism as anyone else. So we decided to introduce a category for this year, which was the worst production decision or the worst twist. And once again, Paul, you had the first choice on this one. What did you go for?
4 in, 4 out. Basically, main reason for it is the fact that it's just a good way of just getting rid of productions' 4 most least entertaining housemates to replace with 4 new performing housemates. So to tell you the truth, this is basically them saying, right, we need to extend this a little bit. Let's dedicate one nomination night to getting rid of 4 people and putting another 4 in.
This is how the conversation went to the production team. Oh shit, the ratings are low. Oh god, they're too boring. They're all being happy. We want conflict, goddammit. Okay, let's just restart the entire show.
That's pretty much what it was, yeah.
Brilliant!
I actually did.
Bring in the hooker and coke!
I actually did a bit of reading up, actually. There were 14 housemates that went in on launch night. By the end of week 2, we'd lost half of them.
Yeah.
Whether it was through twists, evictions, ejections, etc., we lost half of our original cast. And I know that Big Brother on Channel 5, it can't be held with the same sort of credibility as what the Channel 4 series did. But stuff like this was just ridiculous. And I mean,
the last couple of years, how many ejections has there been? Like, their casting standards must not be what they used to be.
I mean, to be honest, Channel 5, you either got tits, you either be handsome or you got tits, or the fact that you basically, or both. I
think the thing that annoyed me most about Fallout 4 In was how there was no show about it. It was just such a blatant, ridiculous, out of nowhere twist. I mean, it was just like, oh, suddenly week 2's nominations up, half the house is up, we're all expecting Jay to go, and then suddenly the results are being reversed for no reason, and 4 of them are going. It was just so. I mean, Carl said it best when we did the Big Brother 16 podcast. It was Vince Russo booking.
I don't hate this as much as a lot of people did, because, I mean, as much as, I stopped taking the Channel 5 series seriously a while ago. But for me, I didn't hate this as much as a lot of people did. I mean, I liked Sarah until that episode. Kieran, if I'm honest, I know that he was a nice enough guy, but would he really have provided much more?
I think Kieran could have won the whole thing, to be honest. I think he was that type of character. I
don't. I think he would have just faded into the background and sort of been a 5th place in the final sort of character. And the other two, Amy and Sally, they were okay, and I've totally forgotten who else left that night. Oh yeah, I liked Harriet, but she was becoming a bit. And to be honest, we had 4 housemates who provided something.
To be honest, I don't think the benefits of the new people were all there. I mean, yes, obviously Mark became this big prominent character and arguably became the star of the show. But I think Harry was that sort of same slow-burning housemate they were trying to get rid of with this twist. Sam, yeah, she was a likeable girl, but I don't think she was that prominent a character. And Simon had already been played out by the time he left first time.
I agree that we didn't get much of a trend. It was exciting to watch on the night. I didn't mind it, especially since we got, a better character in terms of what I'll bring up later. But I didn't hate it. It was just, as with a lot of things that we're going to name on this, it was just blatant. We don't know what we're doing. We're just going to restart because we're panicking because of the ratings. Yes. It's just so blatant.
Basically, like every other Channel 5 show. That isn't CSI or Gotham.
Oh God, don't know.
Or Celebrity Wedding Planner. Sorry.
See, there's your problem right there.
I don't watch that. You can blame me for a lot of things, but not that.
You can't put celebrity in front of everything.
Yes, you can.
What about Celebrity Superstar?
Oh, for fuck's! No, it doesn't work. Okay, then let's try it with mine. Celebrity Root Beer or Celebrity Fallout 4, or better still.
Oh, I want to see Celebrity Fallout 4. That sounds amazing. Sounds like the best reality show in the world.
You do realise you're all naming ITV's summer schedule for 2016, don't you?
Oh, cool.
CC, original concept, all money goes to me.
Who didn't love your set? Your face sounds familiar, though. Everybody loved that. Everybody loved to see Bobby Davro as Susan Boyle. Come on.
Just no.
And from one thing that people didn't want to see, we go to another, which is Mitch's nomination.
Hello. My nomination is the return of Helen Wood. I was trying to think of some sort of for me, Viacom had a chance earlier this year when they took over to try and give it a bit of a change. And they were doing so well well, the Celebrity Big Brother 15.
Mhm.
Love it or hate it. Extremely decent series. Then they came with Time Bomb. And then they put her back in, the reason why most people avoided last series.
Yes.
I mean, I turned off because of her last series. They didn't put her bloody back in and put class her as a legend. And we can't even get rid of her.
It's the first, to be honest, the first time I have ever turned off this show was when the rumours started going around that Helen was coming back. I spoke, obviously, last year about how much I dislike this woman. I'm going to do so again. Bit of a spoiler alert when it comes to the worst female. Everything about Helen is just so negative surrounding her. And the worst part is, by putting her back in and having this build-up of her as a legend, in inverted commas, it's just going to encourage her to behave in exactly the same unpleasant, awful way that drove so many viewers away the first time around. Don't get me wrong, I do like a reality TV villain. I like someone who creates controversy. I like someone who has a bit of depth to them. I don't like egocentric loudmouths who are massive hypocrites, who slag off people for the slightest thing and use unjustly vile, vicious language to do so.
I mean, sounds like Trump.
Time Warp itself wasn't that bad of a concept. It was great to see some of these nostalgic old names there. I think Nikki Graham was fantastic. Brian Bellows, we've already mentioned. Someone like Helen to play that same tired, evil stick that she did last time isn't something I wanted to see. So I do agree with you on that one.
Whoever in your office decided that this was a good decision, please fuck off. Please go to jail. Please do not pass go. Do not get 200 quid, you sneaky bastard. And just fuck off. We don't need you if you decide that's the decision we want.
The only good thing that maybe came out of Helen coming back was she got that karmic comeuppance she never did during Big Brother 15. And she did leave to booze. And she did leave with more people hating her than when she did coming in. That's the only positive I can find.
I can't find any positive about Helen.
It's physically
impossible. That she got
impossible.
booed going in. I got a middle finger from Helen when I was at the Time Warp.
Wherever there's a badge on her, to be honest.
I just think she's one of the worst human beings to ever have graced our television screens.
I did bring up a couple of defences when we did the main show on this, but I do agree in general. And you're right about that whole thing about production taking over. It's the equivalent of if Disney had just gone, right, episode 7, starring Jar Jar Binks. Fuck.
Oh,
You know, that's exactly the equivalent of what they did, pretty much.
Yes. We could spend the next 2 hours speaking about how bad Helen is, but we do need to go on because it's my nomination next. Now, I'm going stateside for my nomination, and I'm going for the return of Battle of the Block.
Yes!
Now, for
You are
everybody
so
who just
right.
know about this twist, the idea of Battle of the Block was that 2 people would win the head of the house each week, and then those 2 heads of household will both name a set of nominees, and those sets will go against each other in a competition dubbed Battle of the Block. Now, in theory, this sounds like a good idea. You have the idea of 2 HOHs competing against each other, different nominations, it's going to be all-out warfare, it's going to be fantastic entertainment. Now, that sounds like a great idea in theory. The problem with that, though, was it never came out like that. What you essentially had was the 2 heads of household working together, because obviously they don't want to go against each other, and instead nominating these sort of passive floater players who everyone could just agree, yeah, I'm not too keen on them, etc. So it wasn't entertaining It killed the game from a strategic point of view because it was always safe, predictable nominations. It didn't allow power shits to happen, and those strong alpha male characters people chose to avoid because the competition element meant all the big alphas are going to win the competitions. So they ended up aligning with each other by default. Big Brother 16 is one of the worst seasons of reality TV ever because of Battle of the Block. So when you have a twist which is that disliked, why do you bring it back again?
Because people are idiots.
Exactly. If we talked earlier before, like with Helen, where there's a stubbornness surrounding production when something doesn't work, the production team still insist that they need to bring it back. You're wrong, we're right. It's the same with Battle of the Block. People didn't like the twist. People saw how it didn't work, and yet you bring it back and call it a fan favourite. That was the part that annoyed me more than anything. The fact that such a badly received twist was seen as a fan favourite by production.
I cannot disagree to anything you have just uttered out of your mouth. I think that every single thing you've just said is just spot on. Describing it as a fan favourite, despite the fact that most people hated it last series, and not only that, but do you know what? That whole series was a bad production decision in the end. I didn't mind it, but they kept bringing back Big Brother 16 people. Yeah, let's bring back Frankie because everyone loves Frankie. No, they fucking don't.
I couldn't
Have
stand
you seen the polls where he's like bottom of the most disliked housemate ever?
It wasn't as bad this year because I think the cast made up for it. But when the cast are having to work against something which is so detrimental to the show, that's a bad sign for me.
He'll be back next year.
That's a scary thing.
Even more of a fan favourite because everyone loved it last year, so we're bringing it back again.
Why do I hear
this year? We're going to have twins again.
Oh God!
We're going to have a live birth and a live murder.
But yeah, I think that's all I can really say about Battle of the Block. To bring back such a universally unpopular twist through production stubbornness, I think it's a bad sign for me. Is it worse, however, than Carl's nomination?
My nomination is the Prime Minister President Rules. Now, I know this is from Celebrity 16, the one just gone. Now, I know a lot of these are more detrimental to the series as a whole. But to me, my ones that I hate are not the ones that are just poison the entire show, which are bad enough, are the ones that just, you say you're going to do something, you introduce it as if it's something, you waste my time with an entire live show, and then do nothing with it. What the hell? They did that whole thing with Bobby Davro and Janice when they brought them in, and they were like, okay, we're going to decide who the president is for this thing. And they won, and then they got, they got Scoop calling them the president, and that was about it, really. They did, that kind of stuff. It wasn't the worst production thing in the series, but it's a thing that really bugs me on these shows. It's like, don't make something a thing and then forget to do something with it, or can't be bothered to come up with a twist. Don't waste my time.
Like M. Night Shyamalan or a really bad anime.
But hasn't that always been a trend of the Channel 5 celebrity series on a whole? Because I remember Twisted Fairy Tale, there was a very similar thing. There was like a Day One twist with Katie Hopkins and the Magic Mirror. And that was the only sort of fairy tale related thing that happened during that season.
Yeah, it's just a case of they're like, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and then you don't do any of it because, I don't know, lunch break. No.
You know what? I think that might even end up being a late-minute addition to the disappointment category, that whole Hopkins Mirror thing. It wasn't even mentioned to the bloody housemates. There was no point in that whatsoever. The housemates didn't know until they got out of the house. It was like, what point is this providing to the series?
Are we talking Magic Mirror to Hell or Magic Mirror as
Kate Hopkins wasn't it, so, you know.
Fucking hell.
The only thing I will say, though, which defends the President Rules, is the fact it gave us President Scoop.
Well, yeah, but they did more. The housemates did more with it than the production did. Like, they took it as if, like, right, they're the... Like, if it... I think my problem with it is the way it came off, and the way they could have done it, is that it was going to be like the head of household type thing. And then they didn't do that. And it was like, so why are we doing this? Why are you doing a live show to do an entire task to win nothing? So you're just wasting airtime. Okay, I'll watch something else then.
Do you think this is why Kanye West is going for president? Because he saw in the news Fat Man Scoop becomes president. And he thought, oh, maybe I can do it.
So it's time for us to decide our nominees then, lads. Paul, since you made the first nomination, you can make the first vote for winner.
I'm saying Return of the Battle of the Block, because throughout the conversation, it just reminds me of production saying, if it's not fixed, if it's not broke, hit it with a hammer. Again and again and again and again and again.
Mitch, your nomination?
I think I'm going to have to go for the return of Battle of the Block, mainly for an easy life. No, because I just feel that, I think it just these producers need a bloody slapping. They need Ben Mitchell coming onto them. I'm sorry. And it's slapping down.
For my nomination, as much as I hate Helen, I'm going to say 4 out of 4 in, just because of how blatantly it was done with no tact, no grace about it, and the fact that the benefits that came from that twist just weren't enough to justify something so cynical.
Okay.
And it means that Carl makes the final vote.
I'm going to stick with mine just because of the thought process here. 4 and 4 out gave us Mark. Return of Helen would at least give us some entertaining television. The Return of the Battle of Block didn't, as you said in your thing, didn't ruin this year's series in the USA version. But the Prime Minister was nothing. It just had no reason to exist and just wasted an hour of my time.
So yeah, with 2 votes against 1 for 2 other choices, the nomination for that one is The Return of Battle of the Block from Big Brother US 17.
Woo! Well done.
Next up, we are going to the Dumbass of the Year. Now, this goes to a reality TV contestant or reality TV personality that did something so supremely stupid that ended up ruining their show. Now, last year, Lee Ryan was the winner of this one for, well, being Lee Ryan, let's be honest. And I have the first nomination for this one, and I have chosen as my Dumbasses of the Year, the Newport Alliance from Big Brother Canada. Now, to explain this, the Newport Alliance consisted of Jordan and Zach during that season. And for the early stages of the show, they were very much in control of the game. They weren't particularly entertaining players, but you could tell they were very tactical and pretty much controlled the first couple of evictions during that season. However, things had changed around week 5. Jordan started to get very suspicious that the rest of the group knew that the two were working together. So when Zach won the head of the house for week 5, Jordan comes up with this idea. Put me up on the block as a pawn against Godfrey. That way no one would suspect that me and Zach are working together. That way we can still keep our alliance secret and we can control the endgame. The problem with that though was it didn't work. People knew that Jordan and Zach were working together, saw it as a golden opportunity, the only opportunity they were going to get to take Jordan out. And even though Zach controlled the entire power during that week, the head of household, the veto, and the majority of the vote, Jordan still got evicted. And I mean, when you look at that sort of higher echelons of stupid North American Big Brother moves, you look at the Marcelluses, the Lawans, etc. Jordan has to be up there. I mean, for me, Dumbass of the Year is doing something so stupid that ends up losing you the game.
Yeah.
Voluntarily putting yourself up on the block and having your best friend get rid of you.
Yeah, I think that sounds. Yeah, I've seen enough of the USA format to know. Wow. Okay, yeah.
And I mean, it made great television, I have to say. That moment when the vote came in, 5-4, Jordan's face dropping and realising, oh my god, have I actually done this to myself?
I love that they they were trying to be like all secretive as an alliance that everybody just knew. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a very stupid move, but I wouldn't class it as stupid as Lawan, because that was possibly the best bit of Big Brother America ever, in my opinion. Oh, affects me because I'll come back with superpowers.
Yeah, the only time that has ever happened is, well, if you're a fucking Jedi.
And I don't think Lawan's a Jedi, I'm afraid to say. So
Don't class him as a human, don't class him as a Jedi.
Whilst we think of ways to describe Lawan narrating to Star Wars, Paul's going to tell us about his Dumbass of the Year.
Oh, let me tell you a tale of Olimers, the spoiler X Factor.
I can see where this is going.
Right? Let's have a look at X Factor in the later shows. Right? The most anticipating thing you could ever have to hope for is the fact of them singing and getting the results revealed. What does Olimar do? Reveals who's going to win before anything else. Well done, Olimar. Well done.
I must admit, I haven't watched X Factor for a long time now. Well, not a long time, a few years, but still. It seemed extremely thick of him, but I do kind of feel sorry for him how hounded he was getting.
I don't think I've ever heard the word sorry said more in any one sentence.
No, you haven't seen me get kicked out by a bouncer. Basically, I can beat Ollie Mers's "I'm sorry" straight through.
To be fair though, as stupid as this was, I mean, it's an easy enough mistake to make, and I know like people like Terry Wogan have announced wrong winners before on reality TV shows.
Oh my god!
But
that was brilliant. They both went, and the person going through is Scoots, the other one. Oh, no, you got it wrong, Terry.
So I mean,
quick, get the home ready for Terry.
What people fixated on though was that there was a big deal made about Ollie being the main presenter this year. It was going to be him and Caroline. Dermot had left, so there was a lot of anticipation over Ollie as a presenter, because obviously he's trying to move away from singing as well into sort of light entertainment. So this sort of mistake, I think that's why people made such a big deal about it, was this was pretty much killing his light entertainment career right off the bat.
Actually, I might change my nomination last minute for Dumbass of the Year to Ollie Murs for agreeing to host the bloody X Factor. Fuck it, I'm doing it.
So whilst Mitchell does that, Carl, we're going to you. You're going stateside for yours, and the first ever mention on the show of Tough Enough.
Yeah. Okay, right. I know a lot of people listening to this do not follow wrestling, do not follow WWE, but they have a show, they did it for a number of years, called Tough Enough, which is basically their reality show, which is their version of X Factor, basically, where they show you them either taking some guy who was on the independent circuit, or usually they take some... But yeah. Usually they take people who have never worked in the business before and they train them to be pro wrestlers, basically. And now, in the first version of it, it was very... there was some legitimacy to it the first couple of years when they did it. And then the last few years, they've kind of brought it back every so often. The last one was a complete joke where the winner went on to nothing and just got released. And yeah, this year was beyond a joke. Oh, wow. We're getting up.
Jesus freaking Christ. I haven't seen so much hatred since Jar Jar Binks.
It's all in capital letters. This year they kept changing the format every single week. The last version that was in 2011 with Steve Austin was bad enough. The fact that it just kind of went nowhere and it was just beyond a joke. This year was even more so. They basically had the contestants on. Every week they change pretty much how the eliminations would go. They do a thing where there was 30 seconds for them to sell to the viewers at home, but then as soon as the pleas were done, they were like, okay, right now we're going to decide the results. Wait, but aren't you giving people a chance to vote? Yeah, it was just... They were trying to be these other shows that we're talking about and failing absolutely miserably on it. And the biggest thing of this is to do with the Hulk Hogan situation that we spoke about this year before, where Hogan was found as a racist due to his porn video, and he was fired off a Tough Enough midway through. They instead brought in The Miz, who, if you know who that is the most annoying fucker in the world, and he was brought on to be a guest judge. And then week after week after week, somebody would go home who were the deserving winners, pretty much, who were the best people for the job, went home every week because of him. The first week, he saved one of the bitchy girls because he thought she was hot, and that was literally his reason for saving her, for using his save that week, and because of him, one of the best contestants went home. The week after, he said he was going to then vote for her because it went to her head, this good woman who he saved the week before, then changed his mind midway through, pretty much making it so that the judges wouldn't save the other person, so that he saved her again by mind manipulation, and then another deserving contestant went home that week. The entire show from that point forward was messed up. The best people had gone home, and pretty much the most popular people of the show won, not the most deserving. The show was a complete joke, and The Miz was the epitome of it.
So basically, from what you're saying here, The Miz was basically Louis Walsh.
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
To be honest, I have to admit, I hadn't watched any of Tough Enough, and I'm sort of in and out on the wrestling scene, to be honest, but the passion that you've shown for that nomination, I have to absolutely give you credit for. The one thing I will say, though, is how much of the Miz's behaviour and decisions he was making, because he plays the cocky, irritating...
But he's a married man, and he saved a woman on a show because she was hot.
How much of that, though, was the Miz playing his character, though?
Well, the fact that he then... look, I agree that maybe that was part of it, but then at the same time, he was then changing his mind every 3 seconds and going back to me, oh no, I'm a nice guy, but oh no, I hate this, and let's just make a good reality show. And honestly, if you've watched this show, you know what I'm talking about, but obviously nobody has. But yeah, if you've seen this, you know what I'm talking about.
You did have a lot of passion with that.
You did, and to be honest, I'm tempted to actually vote for that just because of how entertaining that rant was, to be honest. But I've got a feeling we've got a great rant coming up here. If you heard any sort of type in there, Mitch was changing his vote at the last minute. He was originally going to nominate Austin from Big Brother America. Instead, he's decided to nominate...
Ollie Murs for agreeing to host the X Factor rather than keeping his already stable music career. Dumb fucking ass Murs, you sing. That you stupid prick. You know those songs featuring musical kicks? That's singing. This is not, you fucking idiot. No wonder Joe McElderry fucking won. Hashtag Team Joe McElderry. Hashtag Buy Joe McElderry Wide Awake on iTunes. Hashtag or in HMV's bargain bin for only £3.50. It counts.
And that's actually been written down all in capital letters on our nominee list.
All of that was... I typed all of that on that document, and I don't regret it.
I know. If you heard me being distracted while I was making a nomination, it was because this was appearing on my screen.
I was like, to be honest, I didn't hear most of your Miz stuff. I only heard the end part. I was thinking, what do I type next? No, yeah, I don't think I really need to explain.
I think that
we've got 2 votes for pretty much the same thing, so I think let's...
No, not really.
Well...
Not really, because I'm not even on about him screwing up the results. I'm on about him deciding to throw away a stable music career for this. His latest single, no one even knew it was existing, because instead of going around promoting that, he was going around promoting X Factor. And if I'm honest, people have just been put off Ollie Murs now. I think he's just murdered his career.
Right, isn't that reality TV?
It just wasn't a smart move.
Well, for my nomination, obviously, if I can't choose the Newport Alliance, what I'm going to do, obviously, we've got 2 Ollie Murs things plus the very passionate Miz vote. To be honest, I didn't watch Tough Enough, but Carl explained it in such a good manner and showed so much passion for the subject matter. I'm going to vote for the Miz.
I'm sorry, but you cannot go wrong with that epic friggin' rant right there. So I'm going to go with Ollie Murs being on the X Factor to begin with.
I'm going to vote. Of the 2 choices, I'm going to go with Paul, just because you were the first one who brought up Ollie Murs and started the rant in the first place.
Oh, thank you.
So it leaves Mitch to make the deciding vote then.
I'm going for, as I said, I don't actually watch X Factor, so him screwing out the results meant nothing to me. I'm gonna, despite the fact that I don't actually watch WWE Tough Enough, Carl D provided a lot of passion for the subject, and I do feel that he's got a future in the UKIP party. No, I give it to Carl D. Give it to Carl D. That's probably not
a very deserving winner there, and one that's absolutely stolen the show, to be honest, for this category. Carl, you take the points for that one. The dumbass of the year is The Miz. So earlier in the show, we obviously described our surprise package of the year. Now in this one, we're looking at the inverse of that. We're looking for the disappointment of the year. Now this goes to any sort of reality TV show, moment, twist, series, etc. that underwhelmed the audience a lot. Picking things that people expected to be amazing and just, let's be frank, didn't turn out anywhere near as good as what it should have done. Mitch has the first vote for this one. Mitch, what have you gone for?
I didn't really know what... I don't really know what I'm nominating here. I nominated Time Bomb as a series because for me, the producers had just come from one of the most viewed Celebrity Big Brothers in a long time. Celebrity Big Brother 15 was for once it felt like everyone was watching it again. It felt like a Channel 4 series because everyone was talking about it. It was all in the papers. My family even started watching it, despite the fact they hate that sort of shit. Right? It was one of those series where it was Big Brother hype again. So then they go and produce Time Bomb as a series. Coming from that massive audience in Katie Hopkins, Katie Price territory, to then come into Time Bomb and ending up getting less than 1 million viewers. I just think Viacom have just let us all down. So for me, I think I'll edit the title a little, but Viacom for producing Time Bomb.
I share a lot of sentiment for that, because I do agree with you that Celebrity 15 was, in terms of commercially, it was a successful series. I mean, Katie Price obviously played a bit of a part in that, but I think the series was quite good, and I think that, as mentioned before, there was a lot of public interest in the show. My thing was, though, maybe it was because of what happened with Helen last year and how bad Power Trip was. I took a little bit of a step back for the civilian version. I was just like, I'll give it a go, but I'm not as enamoured by the show as what I maybe could have been. And I think that the cast didn't help in that regard. I was a little bit underwhelmed by the cast. Yeah, getting rid of Simon week 1, that was a good thing, but it never clicked for me. I never had that same sort of enthusiasm as what it did for, say, UK versus USA, which I think turned out really well.
And for me, Time Bomb also just had, the theme had such potential. I mean, there were rumours of 6 a.m. evictions, like really surprising them. And there were talks about them totally messing up the day schedule, like making them wake up at 4 p.m. and making them go to bed at 3 p.m. or whatever. It felt like Big Brother could be Big Brother again. And it had so much potential, and they just ruined it all by it just didn't work. It really didn't work, the theme in the end. They fucked it up.
And I think as well, the involvement of the ex-housemates during the series, be it either Time Warp or a lot of the other twists like Hotel BB, etc. If you want to do an all-star Big Brother, do an all-star Big Brother. If you want to do a normal civilian version, do a normal civilian version. Don't have this awful smudge of the two.
I really enjoyed both the tasks that you just mentioned. I enjoyed seeing all the housemates back in dancing to Uptown Funk, which sounds really weird. I enjoyed the hotel task. I thought that was incredibly fun. I thought that it was.
Oh, I did like the hotel task, but
yeah, just make it an all-star series.
Yeah.
And for me, I just thought they were announcing the housemates 2 days earlier, as if, we're going to be amazed by these housemates. No. And I was thinking, if they're announcing them 2 days before, maybe this is the all-star series we've been hearing about. I thought maybe it is, but no, just isn't.
My only thing with this is that I was I know that there was new owners and all that kind of thing, but for me, I was just expecting the same. It really, this year's was no different to the last couple of years for me. It was just like, oh right, it was supposed to be something cool, and it was just a mess. And I enjoyed parts of it, but the production was a joke. It was just the same as we've had for the last 3, 4, 5 years, to be honest. So,
there's been a definite downturn in the civilian version since I would say Big Brother 14.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed Big Brother 14. I thought that was probably the best series we've had on Channel 5 by miles in terms of civilian. And even Sam sort of came off as sort of a classic winner. Sort of stays in the background a lot of the time, but ultimately a nice enough guy. Sort of like, but for me, that whole series just... They could have done so well if they had stuck to the whole how they produced Secrets and Lies.
Yes.
But then they came out with Power Trip, and then in the end, Time Bomb, which... Do you know what? If they do a theme for this series that isn't All Stars, the upcoming civilian one next year, then they're stupid idiots.
But they will, because they're desperate for ratings, because they want to put something after that colon to get people to watch, because they think that...
It worked once. It worked once.
So that was Mitch's nomination there. We're going to Carl Dutton for you. Carl, what have you chosen?
I have chose Jenna and Farrah returning to the house, and how they so wanted it to be Fight Night, and they so wanted it to be that again, and it just was nothing. Everything, it was yet another bedsit, it was yet another thing of that, but yet this time they know, and it'll cause so much drama, and then they put them back in, and it was like, and then the other people are nominated, it's reverse, and the reaction wasn't, a massive huge fight.
It was okay.
The reaction was like, oh, okay, I guess, we still hate each other, but I guess I'm going to back off from this now, because I'm going to find out that you weren't talking about me, you were just talking about Farrah, speaking of Jenna. Oh, I guess I'm going to reverse everything I said, and some of that was fake, so now I'm going to go back on everything that I said in that other room. It was just a dead beaten horse of a task, done to its utmost, and it was the epitome of, you could see that they wanted it to be something, and it just was nothing, because they've done it so many times, and I just loved that it just blew up in their face, and was the worst thing for these producers it could possibly be, which was just boring.
The one thing I've never understood with the Channel 5 production team is they obviously try to create these situations to generate conflict. They want another Fight Night. They wanted that pretty much since they took over the franchise. And yet, why do you want to do that when obviously if things got so aggressive as what it did during Fight Night, you'd never be able to show it anyway?
And every time somebody even raises their voice for a few seconds, they call them to the diary room anyway.
Exactly.
So it's like you're poking the bear with a stick, and then when the bear tries to attack you, you're like, oh, whoa, I didn't expect that.
Tranquilise it.
Channel 5 just seem to get this idea that people like to have conflicts. People like to argue with people. No normal sane person wants to get into arguments with one another. I mean, I know
it's because they want to be Geordie Shore. It's because they want to be, I'd say more so Jersey Shore from America. They want to be that kind of, tune in to see these crazy people yelling at each other sort of thing. I guess.
I think the hype machine helped make it a disappointment as well, however, because the hype machine went very heavy on the idea.
Well, yeah, but it was a case of you were expecting at least something to come from it. It was like, oh my god, how mad they are in that room. It's going to, when they go back in, and they kept saying, when we go back in there, hell's going to break loose. And it was just kind of, they just stood there and went, oh. And that was it. And it just never came up again, really.
Complete wet firework.
Yeah.
I can't agree with that one anymore. Next up, we're going to Paul. Now, dare I say it's a little bit of deja vu? It's very similar to what Mitchell nominated.
Yeah, I was going to say just the entirety of Big Brother 16, to be honest. Because, it's a really disappointing sort of season, really.
I mean, should we say this is both of our nominations and share it?
Yeah. You'll get half a point if we choose this one.
Yeah.
Point. No, I get a bloody full point, thank you.
Do I get chocolate? I must have chocolate.
We'll give you some chocolate, yeah.
Hey! I still win.
Yeah. So I'll go to my nomination then, whilst Paul gets his chocolate. And now I've chosen the only personality in this category, and I've gone for Michelle Visage from Celebrity Big Brother 15. Now, I have to be honest, I apologise to Joe for this one, because Joe's probably going to be listening to this, and I have to be honest, he played a big part in this, because when I started to read the rumours of who was going into the Celebrity Big Brother house during January, and I heard Michelle Visage's name mentioned, Joe came up to me and he said, oh my god, Michelle Visage from Drag Race, she's absolutely amazing, I love her, she's going to be absolutely amazing as a housemate. So I was already hyped up that Michelle Visage was going to be this fantastic over-the-top character. And in the early stages of the show, I could sort of see why. She was likeable, she had a snarky, funny side, and arguably, around the time of the first eviction, she was the fan favourite. She was the bookie's pick to win. The problem was, though, she never developed beyond that. She never grew or evolved as a character. And as the series went on and more characters started to come out of the shells and started to develop bigger personalities, Michelle just faded into the background and just became this really underwhelming, largely negative presence. I mean, considering she was supposed to be this snarky, almost Janice Dickinson-like character, for her to essentially become a Katie Hopkins lackey and leave as the unanimous first night boot on the finale was very underwhelming to me.
Yeah, I think I've decided who I'm voting for. For me, Michelle Visage, she comes off a really nice woman on Twitter, but I couldn't stand her in the house. I just felt she was everything that she was fighting against.
Yes.
And obviously, I'm of the homosexual variety myself. I
mean, don't get me wrong. Her having that
she seemed to.
her having that agenda was fine. I just felt that we've seen so many positive gay role models on Big Brother.
Yeah.
Do we really need to have someone like Michelle preaching about how the gay community is not all bad? I just found that a bit.
For me, she seemed to come off like she was some sort of spokeswoman for it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, love. No one elected you. As you said, the first eviction, she was edging towards being my favourite. And then she just became a sheep. She's always been this sort of, don't stand up for your own views and stuff, but then she just became a Hopkins sheep.
Yes. And considering some of the prejudices that Katie Hopkins has, to have Michelle Visage...
I mean, she's seen the light since, and she's posted about how Katie Hopkins is bad and all that.
So, shall we count that as your vote for the winner?
Yes. That's my vote.
Yep. What about you, Carl?
I'm going to go... Yeah, I'll go with Michelle.
Michelle Visage. And Paul?
Fuck it. Might as well go with the sheep. Yeah, Michelle.
So quite after we criticised Michelle Visage for being a sheep, everybody else has been a sheep with their nominations. Our disappointment of the year is Michelle Visage.
Your vote for though, Carlby.
So I believe that's me up to 3 votes and 1 for Carl for his Miz nomination.
Why are we letting him win this easily? The amount of messages we've received in the past
all
year,
that blackmailing's work.
taking us for our nomination.
Because we're already like 4 categories in, we're about an hour and a half into the bloody show.
Do you know what? We might as well just say, yeah, Carlby, you've won the whole bloody thing. This is going to have to be 2 parts already. We're edging towards about 5 parts.
So we'll try and get this going at a steady pace. Unfortunately, though, I don't think it can because we're on to the worst female category. Now, there's plenty of them during reality TV this year. I had the first nominee, and it's our good friend, Helen Wood. To be honest, I don't think I can really say much more about how bad Helen is. We heard it all during last year. We've seen it all on our screens for another 3 months.
I'm sure you could just edit in the last 2 civilian series into like a 2-hour cut of people bitching about her.
Honestly, I've actually thinking about producing a YouTube video. I do a couple of YouTube videos relating to Big Brother. Helen is my vote for the all-time worst housemate ever.
Wow, okay.
She's so unnaturally unpleasant.
You don't think that that's I don't think she's as bad as a lot of the people. I don't think she's as bad as my nomination, for example.
Ouch!
To be honest, I used to think that. And part of me thought maybe during Big Brother 15, how much of this is a character, how much of this is someone who just genuinely doesn't understand how bad they're coming across. Part of me did think that at one point. This year, though, just confirmed to me, this is someone who is genuinely nasty and enjoys being nasty.
I agree, but I think there's worse. I think that she is the most hated because she won, and I think she's the most hated because of hype.
See, I don't think so. I mean, you look at some of the things she said about Jack. I mean, how Jack just made one off-the-cuff comment, and now he's a fat, see you next Tuesday. Or how Brian Bello looks like a rapist. You don't say that to not in a normal civilized world. If you say that in a normal civilized world, you get death for it. I think one of the very telling things about Helen for me was at the end of the film festival, they always do a meet and greet with some of the TV personalities, TV production teams. And the special guest this year was Ben Frau, who was the programme director for Channel 5. And he talked about this year's series of Big Brother, and he said, it was a mistake for us to cast Helen either this year or last year. We should never have done it, and she's not going to have anything to do with the show anymore. And when you think about how down-market Channel 5 is as a channel, how trashy Big Brother is as a series, for someone to get the Chris Benoit treatment and be completely erased from existence is a sign of just how bad she was.
He said that last year, though. He said that she was a mistake and that she ruined the series. But yeah,
well, she did ruin the series. She's
yeah, but then they went back on it and put her back in.
Exactly.
Whatever they think will get ratings, they know it's like the whole controversial thing. Oh, people hate us, so they'll watch.
I stopped watching. I have never stopped watching Big Brother until Helen came back. Because I just thought, I just don't like the idea of a television show celebrating this kind of character, this kind of personality.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on anything there.
Your nomination, Mitch?
Cammy Lee from Celebrity Big Brother UK 15. Now Hopkins, a lot of hate. Visage, a lot of hate.
So,
For me, I thought this bitch was the worst out of all of them. I think she was nasty, manipulative, and downright vile in some of the things that she said. I thought her whole shouting at Alicia, saying how her family doesn't love her. I'm sorry, she just came across an absolute C word, if I'm honest with you. I hated everything that she stood for. I hated how she became, again, a sheep. I just think she came across a really nasty person. And for me, there's no doubt in my mind that she deserves.
I think the thing with Cammy, it obviously as I mentioned before on the show, I do like a good reality TV villain. I like someone who maybe is funny and a bit complex. Cammy Lee was just an irritant. She was like that sort of Scrappy Doo like character where you were just like, you're not providing anything to the show. You were just irritating me. Go away.
She was an irritating, vile person, in my opinion, and this has happened a few times in the past few series. People have been worse than the actual villain of the series. That happened with Stephanie Pratt and James Jordan. I thought that despite the fact James Jordan was an absolute twat, she came off worse. I thought it in this situation. I thought it with Jenna and Farrah. It keeps happening, but people seem to just ignore this whole Cammy Lee thing because she's fit in it, bruv. For me, she came across just not a very nice human being, and for me, these are reality shows we're talking about. I mean, Hopkins was a pantomime villain. Cammy Lee was just nasty. So for me, I think she deserves worst female.
I think she's a very valid nomination. I do agree there, and I think it's good that people like you are bringing up how bad Cammy Lee was. I think it's very similar to sort of like how people overlook Danielle Lloyd and her involvement in the whole Shilpagate thing.
Just because she was fit.
Exactly. Paul, however, might need to disagree with you. He's gone for the ringleader herself.
I fucking hate Katie Hopkins. She's just vile, even off Big Brother. She's vile on Big Brother. In fact, a recent demonstration actually had an entire lecture hall walk out when Katie Hopkins was actually saying something. So, yeah.
I think we should nominate that for special recognition.
And the thing that annoyed me more than anything about her during that season was there was no change in how Katie Hopkins behaved from her off-show personality and all the stuff she writes in the tabloids to the way she behaved actually on the show. And yet there were a lot of people, be it because they were taken in by the edit, whether it was because they just hate Perez Hilton that much, they came very, very close to voting Katie Hopkins the winner of Celebrity Big Brother. That was the scary thing for me, because there was no difference to the way that she was behaving. She was still making those same evil comments. I think she said something when she was talking about how Harvey needed benefits to free special care, and Hopkins made some sort of comment. So there was no difference in how she was behaving. And yet, people never saw that. They were so blinkered by the hatred of Perez Hilton that I dread to think how Katie Hopkins would have behaved and how it would have reflected on the Big Brother audience had she have won. Well, yeah, that's Katie Hopkins. It's a nomination I definitely agree with. Carl, your nomination now.
Wow, all of these are extremely... yes, they all deserve to be nominated, but everything you said about Helen, everything you said about Cammy is worse with Farrah, to me. I think that Cammy had maybe 2 incidences where she was like that. Helen, I don't know. I just think a lot of yes, she definitely ruined the series, but a lot of the things that she said was like little moments or little things that she did, and then it kind of got blown out of proportion. But definitely she deserves it. But I think that Farrah trumps all of them because literally every other day she was doing something that was offending somebody. She was doing something she actually, in words, unlike all these others which you could just read into it about them enjoying pain, she actually said in her own words that she enjoyed making that task where she was in the room making people cry. That was in her own words. She then proceeded, after terrorising the house for the entire time and doing all this stuff, she then went on bit on the side and threw glasses at people, and pretty much is now a dirty word around the production team because she's in a legal battle with them because she caused this entire thing and got the show taken off the air.
Look, I can't deny that Farrah did say some really awful things, and she did enter Helen levels with some of the bad things she did.
I think she was worse than Helen by far.
I think the big difference was that Helen had a real almost schoolyard bully way in that she was able to get people on her side and get a group together to target someone else.
Absolutely, but Farrah went straight for the low blow. I never once. Helen may have said appearance things, but Farrah was the person who was like, "Oh, you've just said something bad to me. Okay, well, you're obviously sleeping with, you're cheating on your wife, and you're sleeping around." What was that she said to Bobby? Where it was like, "Oh, you've obviously got a mistress and all this stuff." Like what?
Was it that Jenna that said?
No, it was Farrah who said that one. He was arguing with Jenna. Farrah jumped in. Into the argument and then went to that and said that to him out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere. Helen may have said some bad things, but she never attacked anybody's family. Farrah went straight for that. She went straight to that. She went straight to homophobia. She went straight to all these different things, and I think the things that she said was far worse. Helen may have been in a bad atmosphere and some of the things, the way that she was. I think Farrah, the things that she said and the way that she went for the low blow straight away, out of nowhere, over nothing. Helen, you can at least say she was in an argument that some of the things she said were at least in context. Farrah would just straight away just try and insult people or say the worst things you could possibly say to somebody just because, I don't know, they dared to say something back to her.
The big difference was, though, in my opinion, was that I don't think people were afraid of Farrah. I think because obviously we had the situation where Bobby Davro, and when he went on that big long rant about and really laying into her, criticising her, I don't think that people, because Farrah didn't have that fear factor around it in the way that Helen did, people just saw Farrah as sort of this figure of ridicule. She's just like, there's Farrah just going off on another rant. Who cares what she has to say? With Helen, I don't know. With Helen, I think it felt a lot more.
But Helen never acted on it. Farrah did.
But because Helen had that power of influence, she could get a group to isolate and ostracize people in that sort of old-fashioned schoolyard bully behaviour. Farrah had Jenna, and that was it.
Yes, but Helen never threw glasses at people on the show and got the show taken off the air.
I agree.
This woman generally sounds like someone who basically crushes puppies for a living.
I think you'd probably enjoy it, to be honest.
It was, to be honest, I think the thing is with Helen is, and not to discount Camille Lee because she was terrible as well. I just think we didn't have enough of her compared to these other two. I think Helen and Farrah dominated the show, whereas Camille was just kind of an isolated sort of. She was out after a week or so. I think the thing is with Farrah for me is that Helen, she showed signs of remorse sometimes, and whether that was played up for the cameras, whether that was part of production, whatever, she actually at times could show some sort of remorse or sympathy or some sort of empathy. Farrah never once did that, and the delusion of when people would bring that up to her about how terrible she was being, she'd be like, "No, my family are proud of me. I'm acting exactly as my family's taught me to do." It was the delusion of it. It was the fact that she believed that she was in the right. Helen, at least, I think, feels guilty for some of the things she did. Farrah thinks that everything she did was justified, and she's the most perfect person in the world, and it's not her that's the problem; it's everybody else.
So now we come to our nominees. Now, obviously, I can't vote for Helen, and I have to be honest, I didn't. I understand the negatives towards Farrah, but Farrah never made me want to turn off my television because she frustrates me that much. Katie Hopkins did, though. And I mean, I didn't like Camille Lee, and I'm glad that Mitch has brought up Camille Lee so people can understand just how bad she was. But I think Katie Hopkins, again, is that sort of schoolyard bully ringleader type. She gets my nomination for this category.
I'm torn between a few still.
It's such a tough category.
And then there's a part of me that's even thinking you had a vote for Michelle, I'm having a vote for Cammy, because I hate her that much. I mean, this is the woman who personally told journalists that she was going to stop talking to them unless she called Ken Morley Ben. I think I'm going to have to go for Farrah. Farrah's getting my vote because for me, I think Carl argued it incredibly well.
He did argue it very well.
I mean, I hate Helen. I can't stand Cammy. Perez. Perez was great. Katie Hopkins, I didn't like. I thought that she was, as you said, incredibly ringleader-like. But yeah, Farah for me just tips it.
Next up, you, Paul.
To be honest, yeah, I'm going for Fowler. I mean, she does sound like someone who would basically literally drop a baby just to say, "Oh, it spat on me," sort of thing. So
Alice
yeah.
Abraham wins them.
So next up it goes to you then, Carl. If you choose Helen Wood, we have joint winners. If not, then Farah's our winner.
I'm going to go for Katie Hopkins because her series is the one that I turned off. So.
Hey.
So there we are then. It's against my personal opinion, but majority rules, as they always say. Our worst female of the year is Farah Abraham.
Huzzah! Because she crushes puppies.
God almighty, those, I'd have to say though, those four, fuck me. If you saw any of them in the street, you'd punch them right.
And you think of some of the other bad reality TV females that didn't make the list as well.
We had some bad ones this year.
I mean, like Shelley from Big Brother America, another terrible contestant, obviously didn't even get a nomination.
It seems like every year now, especially in the...
Amongst those four, though.
No, I think especially the UK one, it's now become the bitch woman rules the show.
And from one heavily contested category, we go to another because we're going to the worst male. Now, I have to be honest, whenever I'm thinking myself of who I'm going to nominate for my worst male, I always find this the most competitive category. Because even away from some of the nominations that have been made, when you look at the fact that people like Joel from Big Brother UK could have been on there, we had Bob from Canada, Austin from Big Brother America could have been on there, Andrew Savage even from Survivor. So many bad reality TV males this year. And the fact we've got the worst of the worst on this list, this is a very competitive category. And it's Mitch who has the first nomination for this one.
Hi, I'm nominating Austin Armacost from Celebrity Big Brother UK 16. I just thought that he was vile in some of the things that he said, and he thought crying could make up for all those things. He's obviously got a lot of problems, but for me, I thought that he came across the worst male of 2015. Just had to check what year I was in there.
He was someone who I definitely considered as well, and to be honest, I probably would have nominated Austin myself had I got the chance to. I think one of the things that really annoyed me about Austin, everything that we pretty much hate about Farah, in my opinion, can also be seen in Austin.
Yeah.
I think there was a really nasty argumentative thing, and some of the things he said, I think especially when he was attacking Janice, saying how she was such a bad mother, and I mean, you don't say that to a 6-year-old. I mean, Janice Dickinson isn't a normal 6-year-old, but you still don't say that kind of thing. And you sort of touched on it there. I think the worst part about Austin, though, he never got the comeuppance. This was somebody who...
Everyone loved him. Everyone loved him because he was having his bromance with James. And it felt like his bromance with James just excused anything that he did. And it was absolutely appalling behaviour, I'm afraid. I mean, if that had been a woman, if that had been... if that had been a woman rather than a man with a six-pack who, in my opinion, was quite ugly inside, but oh well. For me, if that had been a female, she would have been hated with pitchforks. She would have won worst female. She would have been spat at her doorstep. I thought that he acted incredibly horribly, and I thought it was absolutely ridiculous of the public to even consider voting him second.
And I think as well, away from some of the awful things he said, there was a really selfish side to him as well. I think that everything that Austin did was more for how I look, how I'm going to be perceived, rather than having any sort of heart or emotion to it. I think especially the thing that comes to mind for me was when he shaved his head, and he said, "Oh, I've done this as a statement for Gail. I think she's really doing something really brave and heroic here, so I've shaved my head as a tribute to her." And then almost immediately he's slagging off Gail the day afterwards.
Yeah.
He just wants that big showpiece moment where he comes across as the great one.
Yeah,
He just sounded like bollocks, really.
I really don't like the guy, and to be honest, a bit of a spoiler alert, he's getting my vote definitely for worst male. Hopefully, though, I am still going to try and argue the case for my nomination. Now, I've got a bit left field. Usually I hate these sort of strong alpha male types who act like basically that schoolyard dick that we all knew and used to bully us. But I've gone very left field with my choice. I've nominated Ken Morley from Celebrity Big Brother 15, which is probably as far away from an alpha male as you can get. Now, I understand that the out-of-touch grandpa character is a bit of a Celebrity Big Brother archetype, and we've seen John McCrick basically take this character to heart and become a Big Brother legend with it. The big difference was, though, that someone like John, they could always be fun with it. Yes, he said some awful things. Yes, he said things which were out of touch with the wider public. They never brought race into it, though. They were never sleazy with it, overtly sleazy with it, in a way that what Ken Morley did. I think some of the things that he said in there were vulgar, disgusting, and I think the worst part was, though, even though Ken had warnings that he was saying these things about people, he was saying things that could be seen as racist, he kept going with it. And whether it was because he wanted to be kicked out, if he did, though, why would you ever want that? Why would you want to be tarnished as... You're Reg Morley from Coronation Street. You're this lovable, happy granddad character to most of the audience. Why are you now happy to be seen as a racist?
For me, I stated my opinion on a forum beforehand. I think that the racism, just everything around that was absolutely disgusting.
It was.
However, I'm not saying that the language that he used and the stuff that he did was... I'm not excusing that at any cost. But I did find him entertaining in some situations. So for me, there was a bit of a redemption there, whereas some of the others, there was nothing. If you get what I mean.
But it scared me that there were people, because he got kicked out just before the first eviction was planned. There were actually people online saying, we need to keep Ken in. We feel sorry for Ken and the way he's been seen. I'm sorry, this is a man who once said, I love being in the bathroom all the time because it's the best place to look at women's asses.
Yeah.
It's just vulgar behaviour.
Mm.
And I can't support that. I can't support a sleazy...
Especially when the women's asses are Chloe Goodman and Cammy Lee. I think that's the worst part of it all. Yeah. I can see why he's nominated, and as I said, some of the language that he used was absolutely disgusting.
Next up, we go to our next nominee, and it's for Carl for this one. And there's only one word you can really say about this man.
I'm not going to say it. Yeah, you can do it if you want. Oh God. Yeah. Okay. Look, this guy wasn't nasty. He wasn't anything like that, but he was good. He was. I don't want to watch this anymore. Fast forward, turn off my TV heat for me. I said all my points on this on the show we did this. He was on there for one night. I was like, oh my God, this guy, please just get off my TV. And he did. And then he came back. And at least if he'd provided some sort... yes, he gave those cringe-worthy moments. But if he had provided something to the show other than that, it would have been... But he just was there, especially towards the end of his time after the whole thing where he nominated his supposed friends and all that kind of thing died down. He was just there. So it was a case of he was an irritant and one that didn't even provide much good entertainment.
Totally.
You know what? I agree towards the end. I found his second stint just classic Big Brother almost. Sort of a character that thinks he's loved and everything, and then he just fucks everything up. And he's just so cringeworthy to watch on the telly. But yeah, he was extremely annoying, and I was so glad when he got kicked out in the first night. But then there was a little bit of me when he returned, when I got the press release in the morning saying, yeah, he's returning. I thought, yeah, I think he's needed almost.
I agree there was a cringeworthy factor towards Simon. I do share that sentiment. But the thing that annoyed me most about him, again, it goes back to production, where we have a character who everybody can see on launch night is going to be very one note. The fact that he was saying showbiz so much was a sign of just how tedious the guy was going to be. We get spared that, we believe, with the whole Time Warp twist where he ends up being evicted on night one. And he was the perfect character to go as well. Because he just would have got very stale very quickly. So the fact that production thought it was a good idea to bring this stale, tedious character back, I think reflects bad on them as well.
Can I just say, though, his eviction was possibly one of my favourites. Both evictions, actually. The first one, him just going immediately. Then his second one, the doors open, Shelby's, and everyone's been there and goes, fuck off! Shelby's! It was just, for me, I almost found it funny most of the time, just how awful of a character he was.
I really found the guy immensely irritating. I think there were worse people during that season. Joel. But,
Colby.
I was asking for that, sorry. But no, I totally agree with the sentiment. The less we see of Simon, the better. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to let us do that, to be honest. So we go to our next nomination now, and for that we go to Paul. Now you've gone for someone a little bit left field, Paul, haven't you?
Yeah, Bobby Davro.
Which I found a very surprising choice. What's your decision for that one, Paul?
I don't know, I'd just like to say the word Bobby Davro. Bobby Davro.
Bobby Davro.
Bobby Davro.
Dun 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 dun.
Well, that cuts down a little bit of time. Let's go to the deciders.
I'm going through it. Ken Morley, twat, but dare I say there was a bit of redemption. No, I don't think there was redemption though. He was just a twat, but kind of funny to watch at points when he wasn't being racist, which was a lot of the time. Simon, cringeworthy, tedious, annoying, a little bit of hope there, almost. Bobby, I actually really liked Bobby. He almost made my nomination for Surprise Package of the Year because I'd been to a show before and he was in the audience as sort of like a celebrity guest in the audience, and he just came across as so attention seeking, and I thought, oh, he's going to be dreadful in there, but I thought he came across quite well in there. So for me, I don't really have...
You want to vote for Austin, but you can't.
Yeah. You haven't made it easy, have you? I'm going to go for Simon purely for being annoying.
Well, I'm going to do you a favour then, Mitch. I'm going to nominate Austin.
Thank you.
I'm going to go... Yeah, I kind of, I think, defended him when we did the show. But for all the reasons that you brought up, yeah, Austin.
So, Paul, you have the last nomination here.
Austin, to be honest, sounds a bit vulgar and wrong, so yeah.
So it's decided then, 3 votes to 1, Austin Armacost is the worst male of 2015.
I get my first one.
You get your first point. You're all catching up to me, so I'm going to have to fight my corner here as we go to our next category, which is the best female. And for that one, we're going to Paul, who has the first nomination. Now, you're going over to Canada for this one, aren't you, Paul?
Paul, you watch Big Brother Canada?
I like the land of the Mounties and the Will Shatner and the Blue Money.
Okay.
So your nomination for Big Brother Canada, Paul, who was that?
Sarah Holland. To be honest, she seems like a very genuine person. I mean, don't get me wrong, it might be face value, but yeah, she just seems very genuine and very likable.
You just like the fact she's a pot-smoking hippie lesbian, don't you?
She's not a lesbian, but the other two might be right.
Well, no, I think Paul's reasons for this nomination may be a bit straining it a bit, but I do share the sentiment to him. I loved Sarah. I thought that Sarah was just such a nice, endearing character.
I just watched one clip of it. I can tell right away that she, to be honest, is just genuinely nice.
Personally, I did watch a lot of Big Brother Canada this year, and I loved Sarah. She wasn't maybe my favourite female from that series. That would probably be Brittany. But I love the underdog spirit that she had. I like that sort of quirky, endearing attitude that she had. Sarah always tried to be this nice, peppy, happy character. And I think she was the perfect underdog for the show. And I think especially during the latest stages, where it was pretty much her and Brittany versus the rest of the house, you could really get behind her. I think she was maybe a bit weak on the strategic side. And I think that sometimes she overthought a lot of situations, and it created arguably one of the worst moves of the season when she accidentally got rid of Willow in the eviction. But I can't fault it. I do love the girl, and I think she was a quirky character. I especially loved the relationship she had with Willow as well. And I think it was so refreshing to have that kind of relationship on a show such as Big Brother Canada, where it was almost as if Willow was actually embracing her lesbianism for the first time. And I found that quite an interesting characteristic as well, that we had such an...
Wait, is this your nomination or Paul's?
This is Paul's nomination.
Okay.
I'm just giving him a helping hand.
Okay, cool.
I thought so.
Yeah. But yeah, I really do rate Sarah. And if anybody does watch Big Brother Canada, you can understand why a lot of people do rate her highly. I don't think she's the best winner in the world, because I think production helped her out a lot. But I do like her.
Basically, what Carl said.
Okay, so that was Paul's nomination there for Sarah. And next up, we go to my nomination. Now, I've gone for pretty much reality TV royalty here. I've gone for Janice Dickinson. We all know what Janice Dickinson's like. She's done the reality TV rounds for many years now. She's done America's Next Top Model. She's done I'm a Celebrity. She'll almost certainly do Strictly Come Dancing in the next couple of years. We know what to get from her. We know the sort of over-the-top ridiculous character that we experience all the time. And there was no change this time. She was just absolutely off her rocker, brilliant. And maybe, we sort of touched on this before, maybe she was a bit somber compared to how she normally was. But I think even that was okay. It was interesting to see Janice as a more secondary, more human character. And I think when you have the likes of the Farrahs and the Jenners of the world who think that being a great reality TV contestant means shouting and screaming at everyone, to have someone who has this almost surreal but entertaining character, that's why people like Janice. That's why people like reality television in general, for characters like Janice. I think she was a great personality. She still delivered. I know maybe some people were a bit underwhelmed by her, but I still think she was fantastic entertainment and well deserving of this vote.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Am I going?
Unless anybody else has anything to say about Janice.
Not until we get to the votes, anyway.
So yes, it's your turn now.
Vanessa from Big Brother 17, I just thought she was an amazing player. I thought she played an amazing game, despite the fact she had a target on her game throughout, on her back, pretty much throughout the whole game. She still managed to make the final three. I thought she was one of the best players that Big Brother USA has had in quite a few years.
And I think it was good that she actually finally got the praise for that as well. I think that we have a lot of criticisms of the way that Alison Grodner produces Big Brother America and the way she has these biases towards alpha males. Vanessa was probably one of the first times we had a female contestant actually get the praise and the credit from the production team themselves. And I think she played well. And yes, she was a game bot. Yes, she was just focused on 100% on winning. But she was fun with it though. She was manic.
I like Vanessa.
She was always throwing out these different ideas in her head over what was going to happen. And when it came to the final three, there was no doubt I was wanting Vanessa to win that, because I think that the other two options, whether it had been Steve or Liz, just would have been terrible winners in comparison. If Vanessa had won, she would have been there as that sort of higher echelons of the Dans and the Wills and the Dirks of the world. And instead we get Steve. I just found so underwhelming. I think it's great that I didn't like Vanessa as a person, but as a game player, she was amazing. Next up, we go to Carl.
Basically, it was left over for me of like, why? Well, Janice is the obvious option. Who am I going with? Well, it's gonna. Since the entire shows this year were dominated by people being bitches, I was like, well, who stuck up to those bitches? No females other than Ashley, really. So I'm going to go with her just because she was the only woman who didn't stand for Helen's shit in this year's series. And it's a shame that we had to bring in a legend or a old housemate to have some balls, to be honest.
To be honest, I think Ashleen has done a lot of things that maybe sort of tinged her a little bit. I think of involvement in Botsgate, which we'll obviously get to later on in the show. That's maybe tainted people a little bit. But just simply for that task where she comes out of the Christmas box and says basic rations for a basic bitch and puts Helen in her place. And the fact that her and Nikki Graham, who hated each other so much in Big Brother 7, united to take down this hideous entity was fantastic television. It came very close to being my moment of the year, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of people who were maybe disappointed by the way Ashleen came across, that it wasn't the Ashleen they grew to love in Big Brother 7.
Yeah, but it was almost 10 years later, so...
What she was for me was the Aisling that came into the house at the start of Big Brother 7. The one that jumped out the box with Sam Brody. That sort of almost diva-esque, over-the-top, theatrical, I am Queen Diva type.
Which is funny because her story when she was in there was that she became not that, but then she went straight back to being that as soon as she went out.
I will always defend Aisling, and I know she's got a bit of a bad rap on a lot of the forums because she wasn't what they thought she was. But I will always defend her, especially just for the fact she just took down Helen. So now it's time for us to make our vote. Paul, as you had the first pick, you get the first call.
Gonna have to go with a girl who basically make Miss Graham more likable.
So your vote goes to Aisling then?
Yeah.
My vote, it's going to go, it's tough here between Sarah and Vanessa. I think simply because I know she was a weaker player and I know she pretty much had the win handed to her on a plate, I'm going to nominate Sarah.
I'm going to vote for Janice.
And finally for you then, Carl?
I'm going to go with Janice.
So there we go then, it's another point for Carl Damage. Our best female of the year is the legend that is Janice Dickinson.
Why are we handing this to him?
It was the only real choice, wasn't it?
It was the only real choice, to be honest. Yeah. We're moving on now, and we're going to our next category, which is the WTF Award, which goes to a reality TV moment which wasn't essentially our favourite, but just sums up the sort of bizarre, surreal, cringeworthy moments which, if you say to someone, this is why I watch reality television, this is why. So it's that sort of out there, ridiculous moment that can only ever happen on a show like Big Brother or I'm a Celebrity. Carl had the first nomination for this one. What did you go for, Carl?
Oh boy, if I go for cringeworthy, I think I got this one. This was the moment where Stevie pulled Chloe aside in the toilet to tell her that he's being paranoid because he thinks that Chloe's looking at James too much and that she likes James. And they proceeded to have the most cringeworthy wet blanket argument possibly ever.
I'm just giggling thinking about it. It's just when you say cringeworthy, it's absolutely spot on. And to be honest, this is one of those moments where I can't understand why people dislike Chloe and Stevie. I know people said they were false, we weren't a real couple, and that's why they hated them. I just found it so cringeworthy. I just found it so hilarious, and it's because of things like this. How can anybody take these two seriously as a couple when they're doing things like this in front of the cameras? Once you realise they're not a real couple and you just enjoyed them for what they are, they were fantastic entertainment, and this is a perfect example for it, in my opinion.
I love both of them. That they were extremely bizarre, so I think that nomination is very valid with the award specification.
Yeah, but I think you have something that might challenge that. Maybe not necessarily cringeworthy, but definitely surreal.
Surreal and bizarre, I think, both fit in with that statement. My nomination is for a low actress, Vicky Michelle, murdered, okay, might be pushing that a bit, by Farrah Abraham off of Teen Mum in front of Ryland from The X Factor, Janice Dickinson from Magazines, the most famous porn star in the world, and Aisling from Big Brother's Bit on the Side, where Vicky Michelle was hospitalised from flying chairs, flying glasses, and flying egos.
Jesus.
I think you're referring to Botgate here. As it's better known. Obviously, I never watched the show when it actually happened because I don't think anybody would want to sit through Bit on the Side, to be honest. But when I read about what was happening, I was just like, oh my god, is this actually genuinely taking place? And I mean, production maybe have a lot to blame for this as well, because they knew that Aisling had these big issues with Farrah and Jenna, and they wanted to create that sort of conflict. So I do blame them a bit for it. But the fact it actually got to that stage where there were flying bottles, where some innocent bystander was actually harmed by them as a result of that, I was just like, oh my god. And it confirmed to me just how Big Brother had entered that sort of MTV trash reality realm. And I mean, if you want a credible reality show, go somewhere else. But if you want this unbelievable train wreck nature, stay where you are, because it was just unbelievable.
I mean, sorry, I was just going to say that's what happens when you cast somebody from those type of shows.
Channel 5 have wanted Fight Night for years, and they've been pushing for one for a long time. Obviously, the whole Farah and Jenna. There's been loads that they've wanted a fight night for, and they finally get a fight night, and it's on Bit on the Side.
And it took Bit on the Side off the air, so I have to give it all the praise for that as well.
might end up being moment of the year for you.
Probably, yeah. It's a great call. I think that's a great call, Mitch, definitely. Paul, though, he's going back to America for this one, and for something which just sounds as unbelievable as it is.
Right. What I have picked, and to be honest, this is the biggest surprise I will ever have in my life. Arnold Schwarzenegger presents The Celebrity Apprentice.
That was one of those things where you saw it in the timeline. You thought it was from like some fake news website. You're like, get out of here. That's not real. Oh no, it's real.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
I don't think you even need to add anything to that.
Just
what?
those
6 words. Just Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What does he know about business?
What is happening?
What does Arnold Schwarzenegger know about running a business? Like, I guess
I was part of California, and now I want to take over your business. Give me your credentials, your portfolio, and your stock. I am taking over.
It's
quickly get to the ballroom. No.
I think I've already decided my vote just from that alone.
It's the imagery in your head, though. It's like you could just picture him saying, like, Brian, you're terminated.
Oh my God, that is totally what he's going to say, isn't it? He's not going to say you're fired. He's going to say you're terminated. Oh God.
Now I've gone for something which is very on a similar mold, because I think one of the big issues with Schwarzenegger there, it's all about what we expect to happen, because obviously Celebrity Apprentice is going to happen in 2016. But I've gone for something which actually did genuinely happen this year on a very similar mold, and that's Gary Busey on the American version of Strictly Come Dancing.
Dun, 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 dun. See, you nominated Strictly.
Yes, I did nominate Strictly. Well, Dancing with the Stars.
Did this happen before or after his Big Brother?
This was after his Big Brother, because
oh wow,
we all know what Gary Busey's like. We all have certain phrases and words that come to mind when we think of Gary Busey: eccentric, over the top, zany, wacky. We don't think graceful though, do we?
Terrifying.
No.
So when you put him on a TV show like this, which involves poise, precision, grace, durability, glamour, Gary Busey does not fit any of that whatsoever. And I've never watched Dancing with the Stars before, but once I heard he was going to be in it, I had to tune in. And to see him stumbling around the dance floor, trying to do something resembling a tango, which is absolutely brilliant.
Oh, God.
And I mean, you know what? He just sums up Dancing with the Stars. I'm surprised I haven't had him on it before, but he was perfect. He was absolutely perfect.
And I mean, there was all the Gary mannerisms there. There was the awkward facial expressions. There was the bizarre words. And there was that moment as well when he ends up being eliminated and he refuses to leave the dance floor. Probably because he hasn't been asked his 3 questions yet.
I love him. He is just...
He's a fantastic TV personality.
He is reality TV.
Yes.
He is the king of reality. Janice is the queen.
Yes.
He's a walking advert. He's a walking advert for Just Say No. I'll say that.
He's an advert for wearing a helmet whilst riding a bike.
Yeah.
He's an advert for #Please Not Them.
So we have so many tough categories for this one, and this is why I put the WTF award in here, because just those surreal, over-the-top moments. It's going to be hard to choose this one. Carl, you're going first.
Look, if it was cringeworthy of the year, it would be mine. But in terms of just what the award is called, is the What the Fuck award, and Paul's nomination is the What the Fuck.
So we've got one nomination there for Paul. Mitch.
Right. The specification is the most bizarre, surreal, or cringeworthy moment that can only ever happen on reality TV. Every single one of those things points to Arnold Schwarzenegger becoming the host of The Celebrity Apprentice. There is not one bit of that whole sentence that doesn't fit in with that. So for me, that just sums up the whole thing.
Because I think
My vote.
that's literally what we all said when we saw the news, wasn't it? We were like, what?
I don't think anyone saw that and went, oh yeah, that
Makes sense, yeah.
Every single person that saw that must have thought, what the fucking hell is going on with this world?
Paul, your nomination? Your vote, I should say.
I will go with Gary Busey. Just the fact that his profile picture alone just fills children's minds with nightmares. Have you seen it? Dear fucking Christ! That is a face of, I'm going to be a future Halloween decoration for your kids, sort of thing.
Look, Mar, I'm dancing.
I think it's very clear because obviously I can't nominate my own. So, Paul, you get your first points on the board there. Our WTF award is Arnold Schwarzenegger presenting the Celebrity Apprentice.
Can I change my vote to that sound that Paul just made?
Hey, you haven't seen me on Friday Night Magic. That's the kind of sound that's basically
What the fuck is Friday Night Magic?
I will not be paying attention to Friday Night Magic if that's what goes on.
Well, we've got 2 categories remaining for this one. Thankfully, it's for everyone who's still tuning in to the show. As we go to our best male. Now, the category for this one, Carl has the first call.
Oh, yes. Look, I know that he was a dick and he probably pissed a lot of people off, but I think Mark was the best thing to happen to this year's Civilian series. He was the one person who really just stole the show without being too over the top, without being too nasty, and yeah, it was just really entertaining.
I have to be honest, I lean more towards the negative remark, and I think that I understand why people do like him, and I do think that he was the big prominent character from Big Brother 16. And I think, to be honest, in the early stages of the show, he was fine. He was that. I've always compared him to Steve Stifler from American Pie, and I think the frat task, he was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The big problem was, though, he started to believe his own hype. And I think especially when the Time Warp housemates came in, started feeding his ego, he started to get nasty with it. And I don't know whether that was because he was hanging around with Helen a bit more, or people tried to see a change in his character because of the Time Warp housemates. I just started to lose his shine, and I think it was he needed to go. Because if he didn't, he was dominating the show too much, in my opinion, and the other housemates needed time to breathe.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he was excellent for half of his time, and the complete opposite for the rest of it. If we had classed in the first half of Mark as best male, I would have totally agreed. But then the second half happened.
For me, it's a case of I only watched the UK shows this year, and no other male really did. And it was a process of elimination.
I'm looking at these nominations, and I'm thinking, what's going on? I mean, yeah.
Look, he at least gave us half of a really entertaining guy, and the negativity just came along with it.
Because I have to be honest, I was looking at the best males myself during this year. And I was thinking, if someone else chooses my nomination, who am I going to choose instead? And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, what, Keith Chegwin? That's how weak this category is. But I have tried to find someone, and I've gone for someone who isn't essentially a great reality TV male, but I think it's somebody who needs to have a bit more attention than what he does. And I'm going to nominate Godfrey from Big Brother Canada, and I'm going to do this because I think one of the big problems with the North American version of the show in recent years is there being this real tarring over anybody who was seen as being a floater. Well, basically, thanks to Rachel and her whole Floaters Grab a Life Fest thing, people who are seen as useless or undeserving of being on the show are called a floater. When in fact, floating is a very effective strategy, and when done right, can be very entertaining to watch. Godfrey is one of the first people in a long time to play a great floater strategy. Not someone who just sits back and let other people be targeted, but someone who deliberately maneuvers himself from side to side, from alliance to alliance, avoiding being suspected in the process. There was 1 week when Jordan got evicted when he was in trouble. The rest of the time, he pretty much booked himself a final 3 players by week 5, and that's good gameplay. But apart from that as well, I think people overlook how entertaining Godfrey was. He was very funny, he was very witty, he pretty much carried the live feeds himself during that season. And I know Big Brother Canada 3 maybe was one of the weaker versions of the show, but he was definitely one of the standout characters.
Just the fact his name is Godfrey Mangwizzer. Wow.
At least it's not Godfrey Bloom.
No, definitely not.
Godfrey Bloom for Big Brother Canada 4.
And I mean, he did start off very slowly, and I think a lot of people were saying, well, Godfrey is maybe one of the lesser characters of the show. But even then, when he started to emerge, when he did that sleeping giant rant, that was brilliant. And from that point on, he was one of the stars of the season. Now, we've had a lot of reality shows, a lot of strange reality shows which have made the grade for this year. We've always seen Tough Enough, Dancing with the Stars has got his first mention this year. And we're going for another one for Mitch's choice.
Oh my god, sorry, I just made a bow out of a Coke bottle. Right, that's possibly that's my best moment of the year now. My best male is something, it's very unconventional, but if The Miz can win, he can win. For me, I've watched a lot of reality. I considered nominating Perez because I thought that he was just brilliant. As much you can dislike him all you like, but we're talking a reality TV contestant. He was reality TV, right? However, I'm going for something which I don't even think is really classed as a reality TV show, but I don't care. It's one of my highlights of the show of the year was Hunted on Channel 4. The premise of the show was they had, I think it was 14 people, and it was them versus 30 odd people who had hunted terrorists for a living, who were in all these high like CIA sort of things, MI5, these bigwigs, and they had to evade capture. They had to go on the run and and not get caught. So they had to go all around the country. They only had £400 to do so. They could use whatever. They had to stay in mainland UK. So, and it made a really interesting show. It's got a second series with a prize fund of £100,000 now.
Wow. Sounds really good, actually. Yeah.
It was brilliant TV, and consider it. If you look at this thing, there are 30 people who do this thing for a living. They're social media experts who can use that and phones and stuff to track people. These are people that have hunted some of the most wanted people in the world. Yet they couldn't catch this man out. This man who's Dr. Ricky Allen. So he's a doctor. He's known for being quite outspoken. He's been in the press beforehand. But he had gone into this show wanting to play some tricks and stuff. So he had gone straight up to Scotland, where he had connections, and he'd stayed up there. And I think they call it a bothy, where it's sort of like a house far away from roads and stuff. So it's like an hour and a half walk and you can't get to it by roads. So he basically so he'd been playing tricks and he wanted to steer them in his direction, but for them to have a total miss and play mischief. So he knew they were tracking his phone and other people's phones. So he texted one of his friends and said, "Car's buggered," and gave them directions on where to get him to fix the car, knowing that they were looking for it.
Huh.
So, and then he went, he knew they were going to be coming straight over and that they had to go for an hour and a half walks purely to get to where he was. So he went and hid in a bush.
Oh,
and
wow.
watched these hunters that hunt people for a living, that have, as I said, hunted some terrorists, the most wanted people in the world. And he hid in the bush as they went all around his house looking for him and then left because they couldn't find him anywhere.
Blimey.
So he had these people just looking round while he was in plain sight of them. He told them where he was and they still couldn't find him. And he kept playing tricks like that. And for me, it made excellent viewing. I mean, he eventually pretty much gave up because he was so good that they had to get out reward money for him.
Wow.
He was that good that they had, in local press and stuff, reward money for any information on him.
That's absolutely fantastic. I do agree with you. There's a few question marks over whether or not we can class that as reality television. But
Well, he sold me on the show. I want to watch that now.
It follows
yeah, exactly.
people
You've made
around.
me want to watch Hunted, and I think that's really telling. And I think it's fantastic as well for all the criticism we sometimes get about British television and British
That's
competitive
valid.
television. To have someone
And Channel 4
win a
television.
show based on intelligence, tactics, strategy is fantastic. Obviously, we don't have something like a Survivor in this country, but someone like that being rewarded is, I think, something that really needs appreciating. And I think it's a great nomination. There's question marks over whether it's allowed
I
because
follow him around. It's sort of a game, so I'd class
Yeah.
it as reality TV.
But I think it's a fantastic nomination, and to make us aware of a show like this, I think deserves a lot of praise. Thank you very much for that nomination, Mitch. We're going a bit left field now for Paul.
Mine is James Hurling.
I think that means James Hewling from Big Brother America, our Asian cowboy.
Yeah, I really like James. He's well, if he's an Asian cowboy, then he's a character. So, you know.
Yeah, I think you really. I think the thing with James is, again, maybe it's a sign of just the lower class of great reality TV males. He was very likable though, and I think that maybe it was the underdog stature of him, maybe it's because he wasn't the best game player in the world, but I really did warm to James, and I think again, maybe it's the same reason why I liked Donny so much in Big Brother America last year. I think the fact that there was such low expectations surrounding him because people expected him to be like Cowboy, that people warmed to him, and I think that he became the anti-Johnny Mac. I think that people pushed us so much to say, well, you have to like Johnny Mac. He is the universally beloved fan favourite. To have someone like James be someone who we genuinely did like and genuinely did appreciate and root for was something I found very endearing.
Yeah. Nothing like a good underdog then.
Nothing like a good underdog, and that's exactly what James was. And I think, especially compared to Donny from last year, he tried to make gameplay happen. He tried to change things up in the game. And I mean, he wasn't successful, but God loves a fighter, and James was a fighter. So we're going to our nominations. Now, I think if we were to choose it based on the person themselves, I think Vicky Allen's going to win this. But it's whether or not we consider the Hunted a reality show.
I think
now here's the thing.
It's following people around and it's a game.
Yeah, was it a non-scripted show in which people followed up around a real person with cameras and documented their time?
Yes.
In which case it was a reality show.
Well, in that case, I think it's unanimous.
I think it's unanimous. Dr. Vicky Allen is our best male of the year.
Oh, yeah.
You happy with that?
Mitchell's catching up here, so I'm getting a little bit nervous. But we do come to our final category, and it's the moment of the year. Now, this is no holds barred. This is just simply the best thing that happened this season in reality TV.
Okay, well, Janice kind of stole the latest Celebrity Big Brother, and her best moment was when she literally turned around in the middle of an argument, completely out of context, and just went, "You're not the queen of reality TV, I am," which was something that was said to her by somebody else in a completely different conversation, but she decided to bring it up just because. Janice.
Yeah.
And again, it's just another perfect example of why Janice Dickinson is so beloved in the reality TV community. But also as well, I think maybe I'm reading a bit too much into this. Maybe this is me university degree rearing its ugly head here. But I like to think as well, Janice does represent that sort of old school reality TV. That sort of surreal, over-the-top character that's intriguing to watch, but amazingly entertaining with it. So saying that to someone like Farah, who she was arguing with there, Farah, who sort of represents a sort of new school of reality TV where it's all about arguments and confrontation, it's almost her saying, your type of reality TV isn't the greatest. I'm the queen of reality TV. I'm still the star.
But it wasn't even anything that she said. It was something that somebody had said that she said, and she was just like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to make sure that you know this, even though I'm not arguing with you right now, but I'm just going to mention this."
It was the old lion telling the young cub, "I'm still boss," and I think that was amazing.
Yeah, I do think that Janice is the queen of reality, and I'm glad that she stated it's those fake wannabes.
And speaking of fake wannabes, we go to Paul.
Ooh.
Son of a bitch.
I was actually talking about the people in your nomination.
All right. Well, Farah and Jenna bedsit. Because it's two of the most horrible people in one bedsit.
Just blatantly saying horrible things about people.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I didn't like them, but that was entertaining in all the wrong ways.
Yeah. Do you know what that was to me? Basically, if you imagine Gogglebox on some sort of X-rated 800 channel on Sky at 11 o'clock at night, that's essentially what it was. I mean, it was foul-mouthed, aggressive, but amazingly entertaining. Just seeing them slagging off and criticising everything they're watching. And as much as people have issues with Farah, some of the comments she was coming out with, I mean, the one that comes to mind for me was in the talent show, where James is doing this inspirational speech and he's saying, like, I have the body of a Greek god. And Farah just blurting out, he's not even Greek!
Oh, boy. She had to put together 2 brain cells for that one, huh?
But no, I think for all the criticisms that people do for Farah and Jenna, and we've talked about a lot of them on this show, that was brilliant entertainment for me. And I've gone for another divisive figure for my nomination. I don't like this man. I want to make that perfectly clear. But I just thought this was absolutely hilarious when it happened. It's Perez in the garden winding up the girls. And I think it's one of those perfect moments, firstly, for the entertainment factor of it, but I think the editing helps as well. So obviously, Perez is in the garden, and obviously the way the garden's laid out, the bedroom's right next door. So Perez decides, I'm going to deliberately try and wind up the girls. So he starts masturbating, as it were, while he starts humping the garden door. And the girls obviously see this, they're starting to get really annoyed with it. Perez starts wailing even louder, the girls are getting even more annoyed, start bickering between each other. Perez starting full on screaming in the garden, humping the chair. The girls kicking off between them, absolutely massive argument. It's just fantastic, surreal, but brilliant television.
And it was like, that's when the whole Cammy Lee and Alicia thing was going on. So this whole massive argument was going on, and he was just in the garden, humping away.
Wasn't it up against the window at one point as well? Like,
Yeah,
they were arguing.
Shirt off.
It was like they were arguing, and then you just saw him in the background.
And he's just there, just humping the window with no care in the world. I really liked Perez in a way. I thought that he was just brilliant telly, and I think this was definitely, for me, the moment of the year, I think. But another thing, for all his faults, he did provide excellent entertainment.
Perez, at that stage of the show, where he was just this background irritant character who goes around week 2 or week 3, that worked fine. The problem with Perez was when they started making the star of the show. And I have to say as well, I especially love that line from Michelle where she's in the diary room ranting about it. Her voice has got hoarse because she's been screaming so much. And she's saying to Perez, this man is stating back gay rights 50 years. Cuts to Perez, oh my God, I just came 3 times.
I think it was just brilliant entertainment. I thought that's the point for me where I went, okay, yeah, he's irritating, but he's bloody brilliant. And to be fair, who's the only 2 housemates that are still friends from that series?
Perez and Nadia.
I said on CIBB the other day, he just met her parents in New York. They're still friends. I think that's the only friendship story that's actually come out of that series. So despite the fact that a lot of people are going, oh, she'll find out. Yeah, for all his faults, that has been sort of a success apart from that series. But for me, yeah, I think that's my moment of the year. Yeah.
And we're finally coming to the end of the show over here because we've got one more nomination to go for the moment of the year. and for this we go to I'm a Celebrity.
Hi, right. I'm massive I'm a Celebrity fan. I love the show. And for me, one of my moments of the year, I'm not entirely sure if this beats the last nomination, but Lady Colin Campbell, the royalist, the posh person that lives in a castle, asked out on deck, what a bollocks, before using a knife and fork to eat some kangaroo testicles. And use there were quite a few things that she decided to use a knife and fork for because she thought that was. She was sitting there poking cockroaches, eating cockroaches with a knife and fork. And then she was sitting there, and then she went, "Oh, if you had told me, I would have worn my pearls." And the tides have changed. I don't really like her anymore. I think she's quite a nasty woman. But for me, that whole trial was just entertainment purely down to her. It reminded me of the sort of Janice Dickinson sort of trials. I think this series of I'm a Celebrity has been one of the best in a long time.
Yes.
And it's mainly down to her, and I thought that trial was just sums it up brilliantly.
I think the thing with Lady C is, yes, Lady C is a very divisive character, and I know she's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with a lot of her recent behaviour, but she's that sort of. We always go back to Janice and that the type of character that Janice is on her reality TV shows. Lady C's of that very similar mold. She's a compelling, surreal, but still entertaining character, rather than someone who just creates 100% conflict. She's a very Big Brother casting. I'm surprised I'm a Celebrity cast someone like her, to be honest. So for the last time, we're going to choose our winner, and we're eventually going to find out who has won between us. Our little poll which we had going between us. So Carl, you had the first pick. You can make the first nomination.
Wow. I am. God damn it. I hate him, but I'm gonna vote for the Perez thing.
I vote for Perez in the garden one, not the girls. I think that it just was brilliant.
So that's 2 votes for Perez there, and next up it's for me. Obviously, I can't vote for Perez. He was my choice. So between a lot of them, again, I'm not the biggest lover of Farrah and Jenna, but I thought them in the bedsit was absolutely hilarious. And I think that if Farrah did have a lot of endearing qualities, it came from her in that task.
On one hand, I want to go for Perez, considering the fact it would be hilarious if he actually had a hard on and he broke the window. But on the other hand, I would have wanted to go for a rich bureaucrat wanting a knife and fork just to munch away at kangaroo bollocks. This is going to be tricky. Lady C.
So that leaves it then as 2 votes for 1 for another 2 choices, which means that our winner for the moment of the year is Perez Hilton in the garden. And if I've done the calculations correct, lads, I believe that I've won 4 nominations for my categories, so I believe I'm the winner of this one.
Cool.
But to be honest, we're all winners. We've had a great time talking about everything in reality TV this year, and let's just hope that 2016 can provide us with just as good of entertainment, because honestly, this retrospective look of the show, you can't deny it has been a surreal year.
Oh, yeah.
It's been different.
So I'm afraid then, lads, that's all that we've got time for today. We've had a fantastic time talking through everything that's happened in reality TV this year. Had a lot of great laughs, had a lot of very surreal moments between what's happening on this show and on reality TV in general. But I'm afraid that's all that we've got time for. It's been fantastic for you to join us for, nearly over 2 hours of us talking about reality television. And you wonder why we get so few views. But no, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. My name's been Carl Bainbridge. This has been Big Brother's Big Archive. That's been Mitchell Taylor.
Hi.
That's been Carl Dutton.
See you later.
And that's been Paul Barron.
Down for shooting of zombies. Huzzah!
And we'll be seeing you again in 2016. Bye-bye for now.